I'm hoping I have the worst voice in the world for this. Okay, welcome everybody. I declare the Thames Community Board meeting open. Today, the 31st of June. Also, which mark the fact that it's from the 18th to the 24th of June, it's volunteer week in this country. It's quite a universal thing. I see it in all different places. But this afternoon, we'll be celebrating the volunteers in Thames at 3 o'clock with a small little cup of tea and a few cakes and things like that. So we did recognise them. For those people out there in the Etherland, welcome. I see Dean on there a minute ago. We've got others on there. Thanks, Dean. Thank you very much. And to the staff sitting in the back there, thank you very much for attending. And we'll our guest, staff over here too. Sorry. Okay. Right. We start with the Welcome and Karakia. Opportunity to be doing that, please. So for those who wish, you can stand. For those who don't, remain seated.
Tēnā tōhu o mātou atua, o te rangi, o te whenua. E aratakina e a mātou e ngā take e whiriwhiri ai I tēnei wā. I raro aro, I te aro o ranganui ki runga, a papatua nuku e tātoko nei. Whakamoa ai ki a tina, hui e, tai.
Thank you, Councillor. Talk about papatua nuku. We'll see one of the flags down there for Margariti flags running down there, the name on the bottom of the flag. Like the Seven Sisters now flying on Common Street. Or some of them are. Okay, apologies, please. We have one apology from Peter Rebel, Councillor Rebel. We have one apology. Somebody care to move the Oh, sorry.
I have
Yeah, I took and so do we have a seconder, please?
Yep.
Johnson. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. We have now moved to the public forum. We have two speakers in the public forum. The first one is Cheryl McConnell. Would you care to come up the front there, please? Cheryl tells me she's only got good news today, so you can stand or be seated, whichever you prefer.
I'll stand, thanks. Feel more important standing. So I'm representing the Thames Croquet Club, and we have some very good news. First of all, I'd like to thank the Community Board for the funding we got last year. It's helped us immensely with the fertiliser and weed control and things on the lawn. I'll be back for more later. Because it's very expensive business trying to maintain a lawn for croquet standards. We have been honoured, we feel, by Thames Valley Association, that's the clubs in Thames Valley, recommending that Thames Croquet Club hold a national tournament in January next year for Croquet New Zealand. It will run for 4 days, the first day being a youth development day that they've never held one before at this particular tournament, and then 3 days of I find it amusing to say elite croquet, but it is. It's players way better than me, and so there will be visitors coming to Thames. It'll be a 4-day long tournament. Our croquet club provides the clubhouse and the lawns and the hoops, and that's if I can get funding from somewhere else for them, and cups of tea and water and all that sort of thing. The players themselves have to come up, provide their own accommodation and meals. So, but we'll be bringing visitors into Thames, but families, because of the youth development one, couples maybe in camper vans. There's a couple of things I do want to ask the council to look at. Our boundary fence, the white picket fence boundary is very, very shabby, and we'd love some help with getting that. That two of our working members said, if you provide the paint, we'll paint it, but it needs repairs, and it may, I haven't counted, but it probably needs some duplicates or something, but if it can go on your works to-do list and let us know that it's going to happen, that would be very good. Otherwise, we're going to have to, I don't know, what we're going to have to do to tidy it up a bit. It's quite shabby. Also, the trees outside of the boundary along that strip of ground that coming down from Victoria Park, they're constantly dropping branches, leaves, and God knows what. We don't want them falling on our visitors' cars, or heads, or anything like that. So that could be, they could be looked at, and dangerous looking bits of trees tidied up. Camper van visiting. I don't know much about this at all because I live in it, but I did know somebody pre-COVID who used to come regularly to Croaky sometimes in the summer, and she could only stay 3 nights in one of the council camper van parking spots. Our visitors would probably want to stay 4 for the tournament, or 5 perhaps. Is there any way of it giving an extension to special circumstances like that? We wouldn't like them to come here to our tournament and be fined for overstaying their welcome. That's one request. That's the other request. So help with fence and the trees outside and the camper vans. But basically, I just want to tell you that we believe it's going to be great for our club, and we've been requested because we are one of the few clubs in the Thames Valley area that's got 5 full-size units, and it should be a great tournament. And I believe, being coming in the middle of the January summer holidays, that visitors will come and probably go elsewhere around the district. I will be in touch with the Business Association already, get round to all the restaurants and the accommodation people, etc., and let them know that, you know, we might need some accommodation for people. Croaky New Zealand what we will do is send all our information to Croaky New Zealand, and they do the organising of it. But there will be a bit of lead work on our behalf. So,
Very good. Thank you very much.
thank you for
Well done.
Sound.
Don't move away because Councillor Rodney's got a question for you.
Yes.
So we have to ask questions. We're not allowed to make statements. But so my question will be, are you aware that with the fact that there's going to be a quantity of workers working up on State Highway 25A, they've already started booking accommodation? So
Oh my God, I know.
I think it would be very, yeah, I'll just stop at that question.
New Zealand today and say, you know, if anyone, because they haven't put their advertising out to the clubs yet.
Right.
They need to get on the job. So yeah, I'll give them a prod.
Councillor Sinclair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. It's exciting. And how many visitors are you expecting?
Well, I looked up, I didn't get much help out actually as the CEO of Croaky New Zealand, but I looked up the Levin Croquet Club who held their same tournament this year. They only had 4 lawns, so they probably were restricted. They said they had 20 players, but you see, I don't know whether they had 20 players per day because it's different divisions. But of course they could have families and most likely couples. And so we are saying maybe 40 a day. And with the youth development on the Thursday, they may just stay for that day and move on. Families.
And which days in January?
The 11th of January to the 14th.
Any further questions? There's been none. Thank you so much.
Thank
for the
you.
information.
Thank you.
Oh, just one, which picket fence are you referring to?
The front one on Beach Road.
Oh, that's your one.
It's not ours, we believe. We believe it's yours.
Oh, we've got the man with the asset register not far away. You'll find it.
I still at dawn to work it out if you like, but, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So now,
Hello, I'm Ronell, I'm Treasurer of State Park and Thames. So first of all, we've been looking at talking to the community board regarding support for the road closure. But probably more importantly, we're looking at the first time promoting State Park actively out to Auckland, Hamilton and Tauranga. We're going to run advertising out there and try and bring as many people into town as possible. Our main focus being our Saturday when we have our parade and we have lots of free activities. We see it as a real opportunity to try and bring people back in. I know the businesses are down by about 30%, and we probably look at ourselves as probably being one of the only events coming up where potential to bring people into Thames. What we would like to see, that other day is the Sunday when we're going to throw parking, we have lots of family activities and opening up to community groups of fundraising, going to the market down there, we have Pakaraka, we have all kind of activity. And really looking at it as an opportunity to bring more people into Thames to kind of watch the activities, whether they're steampunkers or not. What we'd like from the community board is feedback on how you guys think we can improve the event. And how it is quite a unique event. It is something that is probably the busiest steampunk event in the country, and probably by our estimation, the busiest day for Thames in the country would be the Saturday we have the steampunk. The other thing we'd like, and this is from, we'd like to see the community board get involved potentially in promoting using Libra. It's not our event, but our people there, work out how to promote Thames to get people back over the Christmas period. Because we probably present, I don't think, my understanding as treasurer is steampunk have never actually marketed out to the general community in Auckland, Hamilton, etc. And that's what we're going to do. Try and bring as many people as possible, like the community board to look at potentially how they can promote Thames off, how they can leverage off us, bring people there in order to promote people coming to Thames over the holiday period. Whether that's an information tent or something like that, which is near the parade or something like that, because otherwise people come down, they go to the same park, they have a great meeting in Thames, and they probably don't come back. Yeah, that's kind of
right, you were listening too much to the TBA's questionnaire, I think.
I have been involved with the promotion and stuff here.
What day was it, please?
So 9th to the 12th of November.
9th to 12th of
November.
November.
But the 2 days which will be most kind of accessible to the public would be the Saturday, which is the 11th, and the Sunday, which is the 12th. Both of those have activities where the public can watch and join in without necessarily being steampunk.
Excellent. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Hornell? I think most of the people here have experienced the steampunk over the years. I've got to say, it's pretty amazing. So if you're going to sort of increase the size by another 30%, that should be quite a thing. And your question was that you wanted you were asking the community board about the street closure. Is that what you were asking for?
We'll come to the community board. I think that we need to put an application as a separate process, don't we, for the road closure, support for the road closure?
Traffic management.
Yeah.
Right. And in the past, the community board's been involved, wasn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Right. No further questions? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Should get on out. Okay. Right. So somebody here, or I got the names. The 10th community board received Gerald McConnell and Richard Hornell as speakers in the public forum. Somebody moved that, please. Moved by Board Member Johnson, seconded by Board Member Radwar. Any comments? All those in favour, please aye. Those against, declare carried. Or how much work it is in there, council rebels. Right. Any conflicts of interest in that, or no, first of all, items not on the agenda, we've got, this end of the business end, we have done, so I hope nobody else has done any. So it makes the end of the day. Conflicts of interest today, by any chance, please? No. Then we'll now move to, minutes for confirmation. So would somebody care to move to confirm the minutes of Thames Community Board held on the 10th of May, 2023, true and correct? I just need to move a second, please. Moved by Councillor Rodley and seconded by Caitlin or Rakwar. These board members Rakwar. Now it's open for discussion as to whether they're true and correct rather than what the contents are. These are confirmed minutes. So you're going to have, oh no, I just gave that to look at. We're not going to go down the path today.
Doesn't it relate?
No, not really. Because we had a house discussion today, you and I got that.
All right.
Yeah. We already had it, and we'll talk to you afterwards about it.
Okay, thanks.
So anybody, yeah,
Yes, just a matter of, I guess, correction on page 2 of the minutes, page 5 of the agenda. There's a statement, Peter Ferrin spoke to the meeting regarding the closure of Mary Street and highlighted the following points. And the points that are raised there, the closure of Mary Street, there's no community consultation, Mary Street illegal, etc. We as a board have disagreed with those statements, and so I was hoping that we can have highlighted the following points to support his views rather than presenting them as statements of fact. Yeah, then I'm afraid.
yeah.
So still utterly, I think, being true to what Peter Ferrin spoke about and what he presented to us, but just making sure that our minutes aren't recording that we as a board consider that the closure had no community consultation and that the closure was illegal, because that's not, as far as the resolutions of the board goes thus far, that's not what our board has agreed to. It's just a minor change.
Now, as chair, I have to ask a question of the board members. Is it our role to determine whether what people say here in public forum are true and correct? If they were to cast aspersions on us, or if they were to make similar statements, and obviously behoves the chair to stop that conversation at that point there. But I'm just asking you now, Councillor Sinclair, whether it's our role to correct. I'm not saying we're right or wrong. I'm just asking you, whether it's our role to correct what people say here.
I don't necessarily know that we're correcting what he said. I think Councillor Sinclair's point is that the board didn't agree or weren't endorsing the view. And I know sometimes when people have spoken in public forum, we have endorsed what they've said. Yeah.
So this case, no,
I don't know. I don't know process wise, and we probably have to rely upon governance to.
I'm saying either way, you want to move that segment up to saying the rest of the board agrees with that, amend the minutes accordingly, or we need the minutes as they are and take the ready, because really probably only us, the dwelling into that is closely, probably the public, members of the public probably doesn't read the minutes the same thing. But if you go away, then you can move an amendment, we get a second up to change that.
We don't need to.
Oh, we just do it.
Yeah, if the mover and second are happy with the amendment.
Oh, as it is now, I'm asking if Councillor Sinclair wants to do that. Oh, you've done it.
When I spoke to Jenna.
I got it lost my way.
Yeah.
Right, you change
That's the
that.
proposal that Jenna came up with, which I'm very.
I've got my own version. Oh, yes. There, so did you see the version which is in your minutes and see the version that's up on the screen?
I feel that
Page.
this, page 5 of the agenda packet, I feel that this statement there is really true to what Peter presented to us, the one that's on the screen now. Because the facts that he presented in support of his views are as they were, but just with that disclaimer that they support his views.
Doesn't it show a third point in the minutes
It does actually.
about road closure? Oh, okay.
Okay.
So the basic question is, do you want the version which is up on the screen, or do you just want to adopt the minutes as they are? That's the basic question. Either one.
I'd like to move that we adopt them as on the screen.
You want to make a change?
Yep, but to the supporters views part.
So,
Yeah. My
can
name
you
is.
second that? Any further discussion? We have a mover and a seconder. There's any further discussion about it? Being now proposed to put that change, all those in favour, please say aye, those against. They're carried. Okay, so the minutes are as per that screen, not on your sheet. Okay,
What are you referring to? Already finished that item.
correct.
Well, it's just item 2.1 in the minutes, resolution number 2. It refers to the Nauru Bay Water Supply Society Limited. So it can't be a society and limited. It's not a limited liability company. So it must be a society. So it's just limited. It's a volunteer group.
Might have to start, remember? To set it up,
Yes, it is an incorporated society, so yeah.
not a limited company.
It's not.
So we remove the word limited out of it. Yeah. Okay.
Question for Chair, can we ensure that we include it during the item, Roger, not as then in Roger?
Yeah, that would be a better one to come up. Okay, so there's another one, take the word limited, oh, just to go back to that, that's on page 6.
Mhm.
And that is, that's resolved, the test committee board, and it's, numbers, part 2, recommends the council to grant easement to Nauru Water Supply Society, and take out the word limited, please. So we'll move for that.
And number 3.
Yeah.
Or put it down to, sorry, number 3, well done. So therefore, moved by board member Johnson, seconded by,
Yeah.
oh, who was the other? To change. Oh, we doing it all under one?
Yes.
Oh, that's your way. Okay. All right, so we're moving for those changes, that's 2 changes. Do you realise that that's what you moved, the changes to include limited?
Mhm.
Be taken out? You did. Okay. All right. All in favour, please say aye. Those against, declare carried. Next one is the proposed assignment of license to occupy. Those people looking through there will notice you've got the old version on page 10 and the new version on page 13.
Cold and real one.
Yeah. Sorry.
So is just to keep this one really simple, it's basically, we granted them the easement, since we've granted them the easement, they've sold, so we're granting the easement to the new owners.
Yeah, the license to the.
Right, I'd like to move it.
Yeah, so the district council granted the easement in the 16th of May 2023, and this is subject come through for a change of ownership.
Yep.
So we now have
I'd
a
like,
new owner.
I'd like to move that resolution.
Exactly the same. So we approved it last time, so I would recommend we approve it this time as well.
Just second. Or Martin's first did it.
Yep. I move.
Okay, so that, we're not going to put it up on the board, but that's a resolution there in front of you on page 13. Moved by councillor Rodney, seconded by councillor Sinclair.
I think 13 was the old one,
Page 10.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah, you're looking at the,
It's got a copy of
I'm sorry.
the previous one.
It's on 7.12, the old one on Sydney, sorry. I gotta go to big side now. Right. So all those in favour, please say aye. Yes, declare carried. Okay, licensed occupied, that is 2.2, Waikawau boat ramp. Does anybody have any comments? Oh, can we just please put that up on the board, please? Comes right behind. Oh. Thank you. So there it is up there. I'm going to look across here. Oh, excellent. I'm getting a lot of money here. Here.
This is the first recommendation, which seems like it's my report.
So, yeah, okay, so my comment here, and I'd like to ask, is over the Nadi Kauaeranga, spoke to the people who want to lease their block of land and made some suggestions. I'm just wondering out loud as to why those suggestions are not included in this motion. So the suggestion they made, that they were Nadi Kauaeranga has noted and requested that the WBRS, it was the WBRS, need to improve its management of the boat ramp at peak times. And I'm just wondering why that was not included in there as part and parcel of their consultation which they're required to do. Or do you think it's sufficient that they told Waikawau Boat Ramp Society that they would comply?
I'm not privy to the conversations that have been with iwi and the Boat Ramp Society. But I do understand it has been brought up and iwi are a little frustrated that nothing seems to be improving with management. So I did note it in my report and it can be made more formal through the licence.
can it actually be written into
Can
the
add.
license? Yeah, really? Okay.
That's is my question. I feel it should be included in our resolution in front of us today. So there's two things that I find missing. One, when we looked at the lead shepherd lease thing, it actually had a termination clause in there. And I'm wondering why we don't have a termination clause in this as well, just to make it abundantly clear that should the Treaty of Waitangi settlement happen within the next 3 years, that Waikawau Boat Ramp Society will have to either negotiate directly with Ngāti Kauaeranga or vacate the area, because it's their land. So we should have in there that, like, you've got termination agreement that the council for Lee or for a shepherd, if the council wants to use that esplanade, that they give them 1 month's notice. And I would have thought that would have been included here, what it said in your document, that Waikawau Boat Society must be aware that Ngāti Kauaeranga may give the land back. I think it should be included.
It is
Clarity.
It is actually included in the licence
It's termination.
and not termination, but should the land ownership be, revert to iwi ownership.
So,
There is that clause in there that covers it, so it sort of doesn't need a termination clause as such.
okay. I just wonder why it was in the simple one where little shares on a block of land compared to here where quite a large involvement. So you've got term is 3 years, and then you've got commencement date, it's 1st of December 2022, and expiry date is 30th of November 2025. In my mind, they could turn around and say, well, that was our license agreement for that period of 3 years. I'm sorry, Ngāti Tamatara. We'll stay here because council granted us a licence. And it's going to take council some time to reverse the 1961 granting of a reserve title there. So they don't have to go back to land information New Zealand or something like that to take that title off there, the reserve title. I don't think Ngāti Tamatara want reserve title on there, will they?
I am not sure I can.
So that's my concerns, and having sat through many hours of this back in the 2000s, when it first moved it, I can see it's full of officials in that respect. Other people can have their comment or say. I'm sure Councillor Rodley's first up.
So is it correct with those licenses on council land, and there's, you know, a heap of them all over the place, that they do all have a entitled to revoke the licence 1 month's notice on pretty much most of them? That's a standard type clause, isn't it?
Check that actually, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, it says in here on page 16, it says the agreement provides that council should be entitled to revoke the licence upon giving 1 month's notice. So I think that seems to already be in there. But my second sort of question, under the Ngāti Tamatara approval, it talks about requests that they need to improve their management of the boat ramp at peak times to ensure vehicles do not encroach on the reserve past the existing toilet block. I guess my question is, does that 8.1 that just talks about avoid, remedy or mitigate adverse effects of boat ramp and parking activities on the reserve? I think a lot of people would consider, a lot of users there would consider that whole area the reserve, and what policing or enforcement of that reserve is there? Is there any areas that are, you know, roped or blocked off with logs or boulders to stop people parking? Is there particular areas that Ngāti Tamatara are really worried about? This just seems quite vague, and I don't think it would. I mean, I don't know that it would make much difference, like what you were saying before about how they've been increasingly annoyed by how nothing changes. So is this going to have any effect at all?
You're talking about adding a part on about encroaching past the toilets?
Yeah, I mean, what sort of enforcement is there? Who does council go down there currently and look at who's parking? That's probably a Brian Taylor question, isn't it?
I just imagine with the management plan that will be covered in what they submit to us,
Right.
like how they manage the overflow parking and where people go. Maybe they do rope it off.
So that there's kind of management plan there.
No, there's not for peak hour. For instance, you know, comings and goings of boats and trailers and stuff. There's nothing as far as I'm aware.
Okay, my question purely is simply, if they have a discussion, Waikawau Boat Society, Ramp Society have a discussion, Ngāti Tamatara, and they say they don't want to encroach across there, and we're going to grant them a licence to be there 3 years or whatever, then I would have thought that should have been included there, whether it's enforced or not, it should be there. So Ngāti Tamatara do have the ability to enforce it if they need to. This is all part of good consultation, I thought, between all 3 parties. But I stand correct if I'm wrong. Board member Ekwan.
I got a 2 question. This ramp is one of the most easiest and very famous ramp. During the summer, we have trailers everywhere. Putting something kind of blocking the path, they might upset some. That's the reality. But they can be done putting some kind of wooden post to limit it to trailer to go other side the toilet block. They can be done, but they will reduce the visitor to come this way because they're not going to come during the summertime because that's most popular ramp. The second question is, if you look at 100 years ago, the whole part was underwater. So I'm still can't put my head around who's a real owner. Is it AB or the council?
The owner of the licensed area is council.
Okay,
The parcel next to that, where the public toilets are, is Crown.
okay, so if they, that would be good if they stay with the council, because we have locals, visitors, they've been using this ramp more often and very safe as well, to be honest. And is kind of good community asset.
Mm.
But if in the future, if roll over to somebody else, who knows who gonna look after that land? So that's my point.
Anybody else?
Not really, just a clarification, please, Adrian. Adrian,
That land is, yeah, absolutely it is. Okay, so that particular land we're talking about, which is presented in 90, won't invest into council reserve, will transfer across to Ngāti Tamarara. When the treaty settlement collective is signed in this area, when we come there, we won't have a little piece of land. And we'll probably, if I get it correct, we'll have to revoke the reserve license over that area, which is something we discussed back in the 2000s, was to get out of it then, rather than continue on. Some people wanted to retain that little piece of reserve there. You are right. I mean, the land does go and come, and I've seen photographs presented to us a council of scouts coming down from Auckland, being beached there and loaded with all the sugar there till they got right up to the road to haul the sugar away. And then it just comes back and it's enriched again every time the storm comes, just blows it all back there. So yes, it's a movable feast. The land is there and it comes and goes, but Ngāti Tamarara have laid claim over that area. And I just feel if they're going to negotiate and discuss with it, that we should say, yes, that's your boundary. And of course, the other thing is we're busy, very busy building alternative boat launching facilities at Kauaeranga. So we probably will not have the same number of people travelling up to there, but come from Helmsburg or whatever. They'll probably stop at Kauaeranga and use their fuel to travel down the Waikawau, and they will be travelling all the way up there. But I just think if you're going to ask an organisation to comment and they comment, and we don't take that comment into account, that's my thing. And the second thing is I'd like to see a termination clause going there, same as what Lee or the other property had, where it says it's written in there that they give them 1 month's notice.
can I just query, rather than put a termination clause, and why don't you just add to the attachment, you know, the actual agreement? Isn't that, that's the way, you've already got an agreement
Which agreement?
with Ngāti Tamarara. There's already an agreement there. Why don't you just, I mean, it says recommends council that acknowledges the Ngāti Tamarara agreement. Why don't you just make that,
Well,
why don't you just make that an attachment as well? Because that'll cover what the agreement is.
that, yeah, so it doesn't. You seen the agreement? I haven't seen the agreement.
There is.
Well, the agreement says that if it goes back to, sorry, Nicole can probably answer that, yeah.
Yeah, there's no formal agreement. It's just a verbal agreement.
Oh, right, it's
So
verbal.
there's nothing.
Oh, right, okay, I was under the impression because.
So it's just the Ngāti Tamarara have agreed.
Okay,
And,
there's nothing actually written.
No,
Oh, that changes it then, yeah, okay.
So I was just looking like most of them have it.
Yeah, in that case, well, in that case, that makes sense.
Yeah, I just think that we should put it there. So I know how these things work. I know how they got quite emotional going back to get the be there. And I just don't want them to say our agreement says 1st of December 2022 to 25. And sorry, guys, that's our agreement. Somebody's going to compensate us because we've got to give it back. I'm just saying how emotional it was around the table in those days.
It seems to me that, and as Ishan has pointed out, there may be people being upset if there's restrictions put on where people park. But I feel as council community board that it should be us initially taking the hit on that unhappiness, rather than just saying, oh, let's wait until it's reverted, until the land goes back to iwi, and they then getting that hit. What I would like is for there to be some sort of traffic management plan in place for when this lease gets re-signed. And so when it then transfers to iwi, that management thing is already there and it's just all part of it. Why should we just say, no, let's just leave it as it is and then dump it on iwi to put something in? And they obviously feel strongly about this section of coastline. It's over the other side of the creek. There's a very important site for them. So yeah, I think we should be honouring their request that WVRS make a management plan and actually do something about it, and that council actually enforces it.
Thank you, Councillor Robert. Anybody else got any other comments? Basically, what you're saying is that they'll come a plan which will show a line delineating the area south of the toilets from their through parking area. That's what we're voting for.
There's a licensed area is the TCDC parcel of land. It's not the Crown land. So it's what needs to be managed.
What they're probably saying to us, we leased our block of land to them, but who's going to control the overspill onto other land? And I think that's what they're asking, that if we grant it to them, then they're prepared to put a line down by toilets and say no further south than that. I don't know.
On that map, have we got the ability to put that map up on there?
Fortunately, that's not the greatest map.
But it's the blue, it's the
Yeah,
blue,
it's
the blue, right. And I think, yeah, Keishan said you could go down there virtually any weekend and find vehicles.
They're putting a line there will be
way
no
outside that
parking
blue
for the
line.
trailers.
Sorry?
They're putting a line there, there'll be not enough parking for the trailers. They're gonna be create another issue.
But then it will be encroaching on Crown land. It's
Yeah.
not part of our licensed area.
It's outside that area, but it is. So you see the very small area, that's the area we're talking about, that blue area.
Correct.
That is something we're talking about. What they're talking about is all the other area, which is being used parking. And I don't think they're complaining about that. I think Nadi comes to us and saying, we don't want you to go past the toilets, which are.
I think it's over there.
Yeah.
That's
So the toilets are further off there. Toilets are further over.
Oh, is that the toilets?
Further over.
Yeah.
There you go. Right, there they are. Just above, there's it right up on that brown piece, is there the toilet there? That's about it, yeah.
As I say, it's not great.
Yeah, you guys, so we're gonna see.
So in fact, have we actually got any control over people parking in other places anyway?
Yeah.
If it's Crown land.
It's a licensed area.
Yeah, we're actually only leasing that blue section.
DC, parcel that is under the city.
Just the blue bit.
Just the look.
That's all we're leasing.
That's all we're
But
licensed.
in their discussions with Nadi Kauaeranga, asked that they respect the area south of the toilets. Now, that's what they asked.
But from the look of that, that's not under our control.
No.
No.
Or the Boat Ramp Society's control, or Ngāti Tamtarawa, it's Crown.
Included in our.
I don't know that we can. We can't just say we're going to control that bit of land, can we?
We can't control that, but we can ask them to submit this traffic management or a plan to keep, everything inclusive of our area, rather than expanding over onto the Crown land or making this basically.
So if our
area. It's
enforcement,
not ours.
if our enforcement people turned up and said you can't park in that bit south of that blue line because it's Crown land, can we? Is that enforceable?
Sure, not.
No.
So what do we? I don't really understand.
Is that, how much is the land that was vested reserve in 1961? How big is that area?
That's
That's the blue area? That's the only piece?
the only piece.
Oh, okay.
of that whole reserve.
I thought we had some control of the whole area. Why would we have tourism down there?
Sorry. On this area.
That's the Crown round.
Brown. Land information New Zealand.
Got this lane is covered by trailer when you go on the weekend. Yeah,
And in fact, in that photo on the far left-hand side, you can see 4 vehicles
Yeah,
way over that side.
but they just didn't want to go south of the outdoor, south of the
Mm.
Okay, oh, just threw it out there. Does that count?
So let's just summarise those three issues then. There's three things that you've raised. So one is whether a resolution is included in regard to termination period, and 1 month has been suggested. Cole's already confirmed that that is in the licence agreement.
It is.
And so it's whether you want to also as a resolution, just to clarify. The second one was in regard to Martin's point about a site plan for traffic management. And the third one is in regard to acknowledging the Ngāti Tamatara request that the area, that the Waikawau Boat Ramp Society respect the area south of the toilets, but we just need to clarify what that means. Like, does that mean they can't park there?
I would say so.
You know, Nicole, is that what they're asking?
You're just worried about the high peak traffic going over that area, ripping it up, or just, you know, disturbing the land really.
And are they talking about the Crown land?
The Crown, yeah.
They're worried about the Crown land.
Yeah, they're worried about that area to the left of this parcel,
Which will be their land.
which will be their land too.
but not yet. They don't need to worry.
Could be next week, could be 2 years down the track.
So can we, in the resolution, point 2, recommend the council acknowledges the Ngāti Tamatara agreement, but we haven't seen that. And is that only a verbal agreement?
Yeah,
Yes, the verbal agreement that they're comfortable with this licence going ahead for the 3-year term that.
I mean, we potentially in potential to get into trouble if we're acknowledging a verbal agreement that we don't really know what's in it.
It was via email, but it's not like an agreement, if you know what I mean. They did.
Well, has it got any standing?
We can't say the points raised and agreement made via email. It's just not written on a paper
Yeah.
and signed off.
I think we should have chat with Boat Ramp Society, what area they're looking for, so they had a better picture. Rather than putting those instructions, how far they can park the,
But they're only allowed to have council land.
yeah.
So they're only allowed to license that area of our land.
but that's not happening. If we go the weekend, you will see the big,
Oh, I understand that. That's why iwi are getting upset.
but not their land at the moment. Why are they getting upset?
They're concerned about it.
Okay,
And they just want the Boat Ramp Society to manage it better. And
it's look like a messy picture for me.
well,
Oh, sorry,
I'm just,
board member Kenzie.
so I'm just trying to think how like intense they want the management, because I think if you've got people travelling there like you do now, travelling there early hours in the morning to get the fish, imagine trying to tell them, oh, actually it's full, you can't park here. You're just going to go, well, I will, and what are you going to do about it? Like, how much resources are they expecting the boat management people to
Good point.
apply to it? Because at the end of the day, people aren't going to listen. They're just going to do what they're going to do. Like, we've got to be realistic, and we can't police it because we don't have the policing resources to police it either. So,
But just to clarify, under a license agreement, it's non-exclusive use.
Yeah.
So anyone can come and go, like Boat Ramp Society does not have exclusive use under a license.
oh yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying how would we manage it? How would we? I just don't think the realisticness of the management.
It's really concerned during high peaks.
Public holidays.
Mm.
And that they manage it better.
So about out of that, right, about,
Dean Allen has his hand.
save me, save me please, Dean.
Hey, through the chair, I'm just listening to the discussion here. And I think what's been signalled here is just generally around the future management, what we're discussing. There'll also be other parties involved, not just the boat ramp group and TCDC. So maybe what we're after is just noting that staff do advocate or they do initiate discussions with the boat ramp and other parties as to the future management of the area in accordance with the request from Ngāti Tamatara. Something along those lines.
Yeah. That didn't help my case at all. Yeah.
Good case.
Yeah, I just think that what we've received here is just a very clear signal about the use of the area and a signal that future work will be needed. I don't, unless Nicole corrects me, I don't see that anything needs to change straight away or overnight. It's more that there needs to be future consideration. And like I said, there's probably other parties as well. There might be concerns from Department of Conservation around protected wildlife in the area, as well as the significance of the site itself.
Right. Okay. What about, do we agree that there should be a termination clause in there to make sure that they're abundantly aware that they've got 1 month's notice to take the site or not use the site?
Through the chair, I'd just like to reiterate that it's already in there under 2, and I think that's clear enough. Once they sign the licence, they're bound by it. And I think a termination clause is overkill.
So Dean seemed to be suggesting about an additional resolution, suggesting or recommending that staff and or TCD. So what was your suggestion, Dean? That TCDC and affected parties continue to.
Yeah, look, through the chair, Councillor Rodley, I don't know. You could go a resolution that staff initiate the discussion. It could simply be noted in the minutes and end up as an action that staff go ahead and do that. And it's probably going to be something that might take some time. Ngāti Tamatara themselves might not quite be ready for that discussion, but certainly we should look to initiate it, I think, based on what we've received.
I agree.
I just saw Jenna nodding her head wisely, so.
Yeah, I'm happy to know that.
Okay.
I think it's going to be needed eventually. And given that this is for a short period until 2025, if that settlement does get enacted before then, Ngāti Tamatara is going to be looking to the management of it. So I guess what they're saying is it's probably better for us to take a proactive approach and do it soon, start that discussion, because it's looming.
Yeah, it's not going away.
No.
And it's highly likely that iwi will say, hey, let's, continue to have that leased as a boat. I mean, they're not going to want to then
Well, let's not
close it all and maintain it all themselves. So, yeah.
That's the result.
But yeah, proactive, I think you're right, Rose.
Okay, so you happy as a resolution as it is?
So we're just back to 1 and 2 then.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see where it's at 1 month in the resolution in front of me, but obviously people are different.
Oh, it's in the licence agreement.
So just go through I'm a bit slow. Just go through me on 2. I received the license to occupy. It's in there.
It's actually in the licence to occupy document
Okay.
agreement.
Right.
Right.
Which they will read carefully and sign.
Of course.
Well, that takes
Right.
care of it.
Okay.
So-
So I should send a copy of the license document. I could have saved myself.
Cool. So has that had a moving and a seconding?
No, we're going for it now. Moved by councillor Rodney, seconded by, a board member Mackenzie, you had something to say.
I did have something.
Yeah, so we have a movement and second. Any further discussion? Being none, I propose to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Thanks, Nicole.
Everybody more?
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, no. Form of the voting, isn't it? Okay, 3.1 Council Committee Board CAPEX Work Program. Thank you very much.
No worries, thank you.
Cheers, Nicole.
For your understanding. Thames Committee Board CAPEX Program. On board. Welcome, sir.
Where the CAPEX program or the Porritt Park?
CAPEX.
CAPEX Program 3.1. So, we did send out a WhatsApp and we did get one response back and some series of questions, which I think have been sent out to board members to, I think that was directly, I think that the councillor Real was asking questions about some of the CAPEX program. Has anybody else who was scooping down this page, done this come a long way for us, so it does like to have some comment. Is anything that is good down this page, go on page 1, which is on page 44, that's not quite right. That's
No.
number.
Page 20.
Good, thank you.
We are on 3.1, aren't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
CAPEX program, that's the thing now.
Well, 3.1 for me says Porritt Park project
Yeah,
update.
in my agenda, 3.1 is Porritt Park. So I think we're looking at this,
We're looking at the run sheet.
yeah, so page 44, the agenda packet.
Sorry.
Must be colourful.
Okay. Look at the
Always
pretty,
like to keep these meetings interesting.
we'll look at the pretty pictures.
Around.
Okay, I know.
Sorry, councillor. So 3.1, Thames Community Board CAPEX Work Program 22, 23 and other operational information updates. Starting on page 20, starts the library. And that's going to be all up to date, parks and open spaces. You would have noticed some of the furniture being repaired outside. Some of the furniture being repaired outside the farmers there, all slats replaced, all those things. Going down through community roading. Right. When we get to the next page, which is page 12. Yeah, we get page 12 on yours, mine page 12. We get to streetlight renewals. Yep. Maintaining existing streetlights over the dark. Looks like you've got $2,500 left over there, sir. You want to spend before the 30th of June. Yep. And me being me and others around here, maybe we can use that on our flat track system. One council asset to get them repaired because there's 3 of them damaged by trucks.
So what do you want to use that for, Jim?
Flag tracks, on the flag tracks repairs, like, yeah, there's 3 flag tracks systems on 3 lights that have been hit by trucks and pulled to one side that damaged, so we can't put the flags up on them.
I'll ask the question. To the roading engineer.
Yeah. Oh, right.
I'll find out.
Yeah, well, you're still with my mediation with you.
Yeah, we can find out if there's money available and it's within that budget. 54,515, then I'm sure we can do it, but
Oh, it's just an off chance.
we'll see.
Thank you.
So,
Anybody else got anything?
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
so just about streetlight renewal. So there is a lot of interest in the community at the moment about streetlights in Thames working and not working. But that is different from streetlight renewals.
There's streetlight rehabilitation, streetlight improvements and streetlight renewals or rehabilitation and renewals. Yeah.
So if
on that, are you, so have we received RFSs?
Oh, yeah, and people are now at the point of not doing RFSs anymore because they're just being told that it's Pakaraka and until the whole Hawke's Bay stuff, and I'm quoting, nothing will be done in Thames.
You talking about the ones
But street light renewals, these are different from street lights not working, aren't they?
Correct.
Okay,
That is
to get on,
correct.
to get us.
Like the one down on Torrens Street outside Valley Toyota, for example, just being replaced.
And may I say that next year,
That's a renewal.
the budgets have been slashed for this sort of work considerably as part of the annual plan.
That's what the batteries.
Unfortunately, council. But I'll find out about that flow track.
Thank you.
I will,
Appreciate that.
and I'll come back to you. Via those.
Oh, Mr. Henson might like to talk to you about it.
Yeah, chat to Bruce.
He's the one that's got to find the money. Because the council entity, so they need to be repaired. Okay, any other comments going down the page? Yeah, oh, one above ramp, Harvard's, economic development, Copen Marine.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes,
Porter Valley Road,
yes,
we are progressing with the purchase and sale agreement for the pieces of land that we need. We're at 65% at the moment, and I'm reliably informed that we'll be at about 82% by the end of this week.
wow.
So there's 23 properties along the road. There are 8 outstanding at the moment. I'm told that by close of play business rather on Friday, there'll be another 4. And then the remaining 4, I am hopeful that we'll get those across the line by the end of the month.
Right,
And is it it's really just about money and negotiation?
It is, we have a valuation for each piece of small piece of land.
And people are just arguing.
We go back to the property owners, their lawyers look at it.
Yeah.
If they're happy, they sign. If they're not, they get their own valuation, and that's the time period. It varies. Some people jump straight away.
Sure.
Other people, oh, well, let's have a look at it.
Yeah.
So, but we're making good progress on that. And the designation for the road, we received 10 submissions for that. 5 were in support from the property owners, and 2 one was from WRC. There was some more modelling on the stormwater.
Yeah.
And that is current at the moment.
Yeah.
And coming out of this year's budget. And the other one is Waikawau wants some additional work done at the intersection, which was finished in December. Yeah. I wish I could laugh, council, because I haven't got the money for it. But we're working our way through that at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, there's another piece of work on a Waikawau.
is that a big,
He's saying they're a piece of work.
I beg your pardon?
He's saying they're a piece of work.
is that a big,
No, it's not. There's some resealing they want done. There's a piece of fence they want done. It's small elements, but when you add them all up, it comes to 5-6 figure sum.
right,
So we are working our way through and challenging. We got the design approved approximately 2 years ago, and we've got written documentation to prove that. However, things have moved on, people have moved on in Waikawau. They come to sign it off and, oh no, we want this stuff. So unfortunately, we're probably going to have to do it to get them across the line. But we're working on that more.
okay, I understand that, and I'm really quite impressed with the fact that you got that property almost across the line.
Yeah.
Just the last 4 hold out on you, and do you use the Public Works Act? Is it still such a beast as the Public Works Act?
There is an opportunity to do that. However, I'm pretty confident that the people who we're using to negotiate we'll get them across.
Excellent.
And getting in contact with those 4 people has been a problem, but the company involved is pursuing them aggressively at the moment. So I'm hoping, Mr. Chairman, that I can report shortly that we can vote.
Because that's critically important to our ward, that we get some traction up that road, excuse the expression.
It is.
We start getting that subdivision up and operating.
It is, and on Monday afternoon, I met with the developer for 228 Ngāti Maru Highway on the corner. And we've got to get that modelling finished for them to put their consent in. And the idea is that we put a general large consent in to cover the work that we're doing and the work that they're doing. So we've got WRC looking at 1 consent instead of 2 or 3. So that was proposed to the developer on Monday. They're going away for 6 weeks on holiday. Hopefully, when we come back, the modelling will be there and the consent can go in and we can satisfy WRC. So the developer is happy with us, what we're doing, and we're happy with them. And the stub road that is in the agreement that we have, the legal agreement that we have with the developer, they will probably include that in their construction work and then subtract the cost of that from what they owe us. So there's a meeting of the minds anyway. So I'm really, but unfortunately at the moment, in the annual plan, there is no budget next year for anything other than buying the pieces of land. However, I'm working with Mr. Hinson on trying to get some more money to do that work, to keep on side with the developer, because that development on the corner is, for, as you said, for Thames, is critically important.
So that then intrigues me that they would purchase the land and get everything set up to widen the road and go up there and not have a budget for it.
That is correct. That is correct.
I was just going to say a minute ago how innovative you were with your thinking about the joint consent approach between council and the developer and that. Right now, I hope you also become innovative in finding out how we can get some money to just at least get up to that gateway, which allows us access to that subdivision.
I can answer that.
Oh, good. I knew you would.
There are a variety of projects across all wards in the district that have been stopped, for want of a better word, because of lack of budget in the annual plan for next year. Okay?
Yep.
A good example is pre-awarded renewals, where the budgets have been slashed by 50% since January, and there is proactive work within the programme of renewals to do during the year. The idea is, I've challenged Mr. Hinson on this, is that from let's say September, when we want to do some proactive work, that we approach council and we try and get additional budget to do that work. Okay? Bear in mind that when we go back to Tondra Valley, it's going to be a few months before we get a consent from WRC that we'll do the same. Okay?
That's actually good.
That is, Mr. Chairman, that is the solution to finding more budget next year. And it will happen on more than one project.
But I thought I recall one of the council staff told us that they're putting it out to tender and that work.
We've tendered,
and that's not going to happen.
We've tendered this work. We've pulled the tender.
Right. That's it. All right. Oh, thank you. I think the councillors are listening to you about.
No, I just wanted to say in defence of that decision to not cancel the funding, postpone the funding until the next rating year, so not this coming, the one after. We were really, the discussions were robust, I think would be a fair way of putting it. It was a very uncomfortable decision, and with the idea that there are ways to further the decision and make it later on. But we did have a fairly strong push during the annual plan submissions and from our communities and from the boards that rates should be kept as low as possible. And that was a way to keep rates possible while keeping the project ticking over. So we were incredibly mindful that it's not because we don't believe in the budget. We fought pretty hard to keep that amount of budget in to progress it as much as possible. So you do have the commitment of your Thames councillors, but we're also trying really hard to.
And it wasn't just Thames that lost projects.
No.
Sure. Both them to the following years. We haven't lost it.
This project, Kauaeranga Valley, is a little bit different to some of the others because we have a legal obligation with the agreement that we have with the developer to do the wetland stormwater and the stub road. The stub road, they are happy to include that in their works. So that releases that, but we still have to do stormwater, and the modelling that WRC have requested is current at the moment, and I'm hopeful, because the next follow-up meeting with the developer is the 15th of August, that by that time we'll have the modelling, which will help the developer do theirs. And then we will, so from talking about the developer perspective, I am reasonably confident because we have that legal obligation that we can approach CAPEX, write a report and tell them how much we need.
And I really appreciate Councillor Sinclair's comments. My only other comment that we had 76 or something would be generating income, where some other things we're doing, we don't generate income. May I just ask one, sorry.
Yeah.
May I just ask one thing?
Yeah.
And I'll probably speak out of school, but I was in a briefing network thing, and we had a developer here actually, and he indicated to us that the pipes you put under State Highway 25 are based on a 2006 modelling and not a 2019 modelling for WRC. Have you any comment to make about that, please?
I think the information we used was about 12 years old.
Yeah.
That's my recollection. Hence, and we're confident that they are big enough. Hence the need to complete the updated modelling right now.
Right.
And hopefully, and I'm reliably informed, hopefully that will satisfy WRC.
Or you have a bigger detention pond further up.
Possibly.
Yeah.
So there are options to resolve the possibility of an increased cover. But we're pretty confident, I've asked that question that you're asking me, of Pinnacle Civil, our consulting engineers, civil engineers, that we're okay. Okay.
Thank you for that. Councillor Rodley.
I'm just going back to your previous comment about Waka Kotahi and your potentially 5 or 6 figures to fix up something that we thought we had done according to what they wanted. I suspect there would be considerable opposition to spending that sort of quantum of money on something like that. And it does seem to me that at the moment we're in very close relationships with Waka Kotahi on a whole lot of stuff. So I guess that, do we spend the 5 or 6 figure to get them across the line, as you said, or do we actually say, boy, you know, if we're talking about a fence and some seal, it just seems like a ridiculous amount of money. So I would suspect that that might face some considerable opposition to us funding that.
I'm personally opposed to spending another cent on that intersection. Very important. And I have documentation from Pinnacle Civil. I got another email this morning back from copy to me back from Waikawau, stating that they were expecting to see it done. I will be elevating it within Waikawau.
Excellent.
So
Right.
the answer is number one, no, the answer you've taken.
Yep.
And won't be until we write to Waikawau and say, look, what's happening?
Yeah.
And it may end up with a discussion with the chief executive.
Yeah.
To discuss at a higher level than me with Waikawau and tell them.
Because that doesn't sort of seem to fit into their sort of 50, their sprint 50 projecty thing that they're looking at. You kind of like, surely there are more pressing things. Because it's an amazing intersection, you know.
Well, we might just move,
Yeah.
more page. Sorry, I appreciate you being on Thames TCB. But the team TCB and supporting our approach to get that expedited as soon as possible. I really do appreciate it.
Okay.
So on the page, anybody else got anything there on the page?
Which page were we on?
Page 41
41
now.
now.
The button.
45.
Yeah, on the page, the last one's on that with Touch Valley Road, on the page now.
Oh.
So this is wastewater, Thames treatment plant, Touch Valley Road extension, wastewater and district water, things like that. I just noticed, I know, but just notice on those, all those three items there, Thames wastewater, Touch Valley, South Water and Touch Valley Road have all got $1 million taken off their budgets. And in the case of the wastewater treatment plant moved to future years, I'm not too sure in the political world what future years means. And does that mean that the money remains in a budget for Thames wastewater plant or goes back into the district fund?
No, it will go back into the wastewater plant.
But this
It may go in the LTP.
that's all right. And the same with those other ones, $1 million.
Yeah.
So no cuts it must be made, I guess.
A lot of those have been through in council, past council meetings to suit the programme that was on.
And if I may, I think they were a range of cuts that were suggested by staff and operations to.
Yeah.
Save some money.
Yeah.
Okay, over the page of other information update, so just to know, things there, one, so has anybody got any reports about the Southern region? That doesn't come back to September, 27th of September this year anyway, to be honest. Dance around spatial planning, I see that one. What are you going to do? Which one are you talking about? But then,
What's that page? That page.
right,
Andrew, can you just give a report?
No, it's that one there.
No, but it's
So these are the updates on projects. Are there any questions on any of those updates? In regard to the installation of the sculptures, the second bullet point there is in regard to interwoven. So the Thames Public Art Trust has its PS1 and is now just completing the tasks needed prior to getting ready to install it. So soon as the community will start seeing a big multicoloured shape on the Pakaraka Road near the airport.
I love the idea, but they take too long. It is supposed to be more quicker.
Just takes a
okay, any questions now, Rossi, walk the way down there? You probably in the future can do them from up here, so you have to reposition. Okay, no questions?
Right, thanks, Rob.
Oh, sorry.
So I've just noticed attachment B about Kopu Marine, is that going to be? And I know that was also earlier on in the schedule, but are we looking at that specifically as well?
Yep.
Cool. So I have a question about it. So and I realise, I mean, Peter would be raising this point if I wasn't, so I'll do it, him not being here. It's around the contract sum and the contingency.
Yeah.
So we would appear to be close to using half the contingency.
46.7.
Yep. And we're at 38% of the way through the project.
35.
35.
Yep.
So just over a third, but almost just under a half of the contingency. This rings the odd alarm bell, unless we've spent lots of contingency on.
Through the chair, I'd suggest that your unknowns are when you're digging holes in mud. So it would make sense that you would end up burning a lot of contingency at the start of the project, but
Correct.
that's possibly not towards the end when everything's known, when you're above ground, things settled, much less likely to run into unknowns.
Right.
So I don't think you need to stress out too much about that.
Yeah. It's just, I know that as a community board and councillors have committed to being very watchful on this, because any over is going to come straight onto Thames ratepayers.
Yeah.
So I think it's behoving on us to really keep an eye and keep.
Just on that point there, Councillor Willie, we've got board members, Rockwell and Johnson on that, and they're absolute bulldogs when it comes to any. So, we'll be watching it very closely, and I'm very pleased to see it actually looks like they're going to come in under budget. $50 million. I just remind board members too that if you had a board meeting, it is against the outstanding orders to be on the phone.
Sorry, I've got a sick child at home, so I'm just making food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, may I suggest that you go out of the room because of people watching.
Okay.
So we'll
Can I remove
know the
it?
time you go out, know the time you come back.
All right.
Okay. Just that people out there in the ether watching. And we pay $10,200 a year on this stuff.
So that was just, so that was my question around that. But yeah, I mean, I've been down there several times in the last few weeks, and yeah, all sorts of things being built and bits of metal being lifted up and down and stuff.
But Keisha and I are going quite regularly with Ashley May out there
2 weeks.
every fortnight, and it's looking really impressive. It's, yeah.
It's on the health and safety thing, so you've got to be careful if you're out there without.
I was just in the car park.
Talk along the road.
Yes. Board member Rowan.
I got a small question. When I looked those papers, they had 200,000 allocated for cultural, some kind of thing.
Yes,
How much they spent so far out of 200?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But they are there continually, albeit not for very long during the week. But I don't know how much they spent now. But I can find out for you.
Yeah, I believe I involve different culture, but the culture is good to follow, but that's supposed to be not that costly. That's my opinion.
I hear what you're saying, but
We have another.
that's built into the contract as a requirement under our resource consent. We do that. And the time to object to that, if you want to object to it or approve of it, whatever the time the resource consent is granted for that. And lots of things are there for a reason, and I feel sorry for the abandoned rail.
And just, I mean, just with clarification, so that's under environmental. So the cultural is also does include fauna and flora.
Yep.
Doesn't it? Yeah. It's not just saying that's entirely iwi.
No, it's not.
Or
No.
that's an important thing to note.
It's the monitoring of the abandoned rail.
Yeah.
It's included in that as well. But I'll find out for you.
Thank
I'll
you.
find out as of probably the end of April or end of May and see how much it's spent. I'll find out. And I'll send it to Rose to distribute to the board.
I think, I think you'll find this about every major contract anywhere in New Zealand will have clause in there about that. And in fact, not even every major contract, some very small domestic dwellings have it in there as well. It's not violent. So yes, it's just got to move with the times now and accept that that's what's happening. But I'm sure if there's any query out there, would be first to know. Okay, somebody care to move that receive the community board CAPEX work program 2022-23 and other information updated to reported. Pretty much. I got moved by board member Johnson, seconded by board member Rapper. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, carried. Now, 3.2, Councillor Rodley.
Thanks, Andrew.
Oh, Andrew, very much. Thank you. That's the word of the deputy chairs on the case. Porritt Park project update, we have with us Mr. Derek Thompson. Recommendations will be on screen. We get there and you will find it quite a lot report. On page 19. So, if you were to sort of speak to us first, give us a brief background, please, Mr. Thompson, about Porritt Park, rather words that's on here, and then unfortunately, the chair's not here today, Councillor Rebel. So we'll be going solo and we'll ask you questions. So I was going to give Councillor Rebel to. Yeah. We also have board member Johnson who's on the Porritt Park as well. So would you like to lead off? I know you might be uncomfortable with.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. So it's been requested to bring a paper to the board for quite some time, and until quite recently, we had the information to be able to provide that. So in here, the paper was set out roughly the background and hopefully the background in terms of where the donation has come from and how that's eventuated. And then table 2 sets out the equipment and the costs of the equipment. The actual costs for purchase which didn't come by the donation, but the operational depreciation costs for council. I've also tried to explain, hopefully it's understandable to the members regarding asset management, principles, depreciation, operational costs, and some of the background behind the playground standards. And we've identified as well that some of the engagement, or most of the engagement, in fact, has been undertaken by the Thames Business Association on behalf of the council, as set out in the terms of reference when the project was originally promulgated. I have noticed a minor mistake, and I'll just bring your eyes to it. It's in the back, the appended plans. They have only recently been released. There's been some debate for some time about a flying fox to be provided for a half court. You'll see that half court is provided in all of the plans except the back page, which has got the flying fox. So just sort of explain that confusion here. That there's obviously an error in the back page. It is going to be a half court that will be provided. So that's the basic summary. And I'll try and answer questions as they come in.
Don't really want to dominate this discussion. So anybody else got any questions for us?
There you go, first.
Big man.
I'll go first.
Thank you so much.
Ladies first. Thanks, Derek. I appreciated the time and the effort put into that depreciation discussion. I thought that was, particularly the car analogy was excellent. And I wish I'd read it 3 years ago. I worked it out as I went last week. Never mind. My actual question, so we've got equipment in the playground at the moment that we've been paying depreciation on.
Yes.
So there's a pool of money which we're not going to be using because we've been gifted this. Where does that money go?
Yeah, that money is being depreciated on the existing equipment at the moment. So the new equipment, we haven't taken it on, so we're not depreciating that.
Yeah.
So if I can draw your eye to the plan,
Yes.
and you'll see a yeah, it looks like a mathematical design.
Yes.
That's old, it's currently there, so it depreciating that, it's been there for a number of years.
And so with the remainder, so some of the equipment you mentioned in that table, that 2 of the bits of equipment are going to be written off because they're not suitable to be removed. So I guess what I'm asking is that does the depreciation for the pieces of equipment that are in there that we've been depreciating since they went in, they're going to be removed and put in other reserves. So does that depreciation money travel with them?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. The
So just to clarify, that's why this rating, now that we're talking about, that there's no offset for the stuff that we've already got because it's actually going somewhere else and it has to be paid for somewhere else.
correct. Yes, it's a good idea.
That was my thing.
That's a bit important.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yes.
I'd love to hear what the finishing date for this project.
It's ideally the equipment's in place pre-Christmas. So at the moment, it's still in manufacture mode and shipping. It's coming all the way from France. So we don't have a final date of when it will be in country. The ideal is constructed around about November. However, that's not suitable for planting. And so the final bits, the final pieces to the puzzle won't be installed until next winter time, which is the planting. But the playground would be fit for play before Christmas time.
So we're looking 2024 Christmas time.
This Christmas, the equipment will be in place. But planting can't happen until next winter. We can't plant at summertime. If we plant it at summertime, we have to go out and water it and cost. So
probably June, July 2024 for the whole.
final year.
Yeah.
So I suppose you could call it, you could have 2 celebrations, I suppose.
Although if we have another wet summer like last.
Very true. You've got weekend plant in the sometimes with conditions. But I also say one other thing that isn't actually in here is that these papers are written quite a bit in advance of me actually sitting here. You know, you start writing the paper several weeks before this date, which is identified on here, which is the 31st of the 5th. I've had another think about some things, and one of the recommendations or another proposal or suggestion for the board to consider is to defer depreciation until the next LTP round.
Next year.
Well, next LTP round. So that's another 3 years away.
That wouldn't affect the equipment in that 3 years, would it?
Because the equipment's so new, probably not.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able, if you wanted to, you could only do it through a very short period of time, which would be that LTP cycle. Any longer, and you risk.
Councillor Rowley.
And yeah, it's certainly not unprecedented. Yeah, that one. Because we are not fully funding depreciation on the valuation of assets for next year.
Sure.
In an effort to save money because the value went up hundreds of millions. So yeah, it's certainly not, it's not out of the question.
So that's one way of reducing the rate demand.
It's reducing it for
3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
And then that's a consideration for the next board.
Yeah.
But through the chair, the other side of that is if something breaks and he's repairing, Derek won't have the funds to do that. So just need to be mindful that.
But then if it's new and it
Yeah.
breaks, then it should probably be covered.
Is there a
Well,
warranty?
if it needs renewing, I'm saying, so not to maintain.
Too many cross conversations going to my brain when it comes to this. So one at a time. Councillor Sinclair.
Oh, and I was going to say, Presumably there's a warranty period for this stuff, so if it arrives and it breaks on day 1 or day 10 or whatever, like, what is the warranty period for?
It's different for each individual.
Oh,
item.
okay.
So
But-
things with bearings, less warranty, static items.
And by less of a warranty, you're talking a year? or-
Fine. Minimum for a bearing would be something like 2 to 5 years.
Oh, okay, right,
So,
thank you, yeah.
Councillor Podcast. Mackenzie, you want any
No.
questions about?
And completely about this, but not obviously about what you guys are talking about. I'm just wondering, I wasn't here for the first bit, but was there a discussion made about getting this out to the public about, you know, some pictures and exciting times to look forward to? Like, have we advertising what's happening?
Yes, there will be, but since planning has only really just arrived
Yeah,
in May, and we're working closely with the other members of the terms of reference project. So it's the EBA, they've been doing a lot of engagement so far. So we'll definitely be coming out with a proposal in terms of this is what it is.
yeah, no, that's cool. I think the community will be super excited about it. So I think it's important that we boast it as much as we can.
Councillor Rodley?
So finance wise, is that all good? I mean, as far as what TBA were looking to
Right.
raise money and get some payments in kind for various elements, particularly I think of the changing facilities. We're not suddenly going to get hit with a couple of million or something extra to.
I don't think their targets have been met at this stage.
Their targets.
Their targets were
Right. So what happens as a result of their targets not being met?
up for discussion with them, I think.
Right.
Anybody else got a question? Councillor Rodley.
How much short,
Councillor Rodley.
what's money we have short roughly at the moment?
There's a significant proportion at the stage that's short.
1 million, 500,000?
I'm it's well below. But I can talk about it.
Okay.
So take the personalities out of this. I really question, and I know the board member has done so, so I don't want to live on this. I really question where his community board involvement is in this. Everything I read, it's Thames Coromandel District Council, TBA. And it's kind of like, hello, we better start including the Thames Community Board, albeit that we are a signatory to the document at a later stage. But I'm really concerned that we're getting these things coming through. The sign up to community board, all the community board ever agreed to was option 2, that they accept the $1.5 million donation. I can't find anywhere where the Thames Community Board actually bought into it. And if they did buy into it, were they aware of the $20.28 plus GST, because it doesn't show GST, $20.28 per rateable assessment in this town coming on board. And I think and this is no disrespect here, that's what take personalities out. I think we're getting this thing a little bit ad hoc, we're just getting little bits fed through, as you've just rightly pointed out, the plan. I mean, I looked at those landscaping plans. Dare I say this? I find that so foreign to see that much greenery in and around a children's playground. You know, to leave yourself wide open to lurkers in the bushes. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And especially with the plane at the back of the skateboard park and between the Citizens Vice Bureau. I'm walking in and down this, the Citizens Vice Bureau, these should be treated up, and nothing seen it there. And biggest belief, but the single problem, overriding problem I have is the safety and well-being of people getting out, alighting from their cars on State Highway 25, 8,000 vehicles plus a day, going past, they're on the fog line and accessing it. And until I can see a better option, taking off 25A and maybe bring them back to Debbie's car park. Sorry, I'm not a supporter.
Okay.
That having removed one person off the road that's been hit by a car and a child, a 14-year-old boy, 8-9 weeks ago got hit by a car that survived. And it just beggars belief why we would take children off. In other words, was there a needs assessment done? Was there a risk analysis done on this project? Or did we just get the project because of the $1.5 million donation of money and we'll put Derek Thompson because he's into the role and give the TBA the group that runs it. It doesn't seem like a normal, and you've been in politics longer than I have, it doesn't seem like a normal approach to a project.
I probably,
I don't want you to comment, I'll probably embarrass yourself.
well, you want me to answer anything?
Yeah.
So there has been a playground there for quite some time.
Oh, absolutely.
A test. So in terms of the location elsewhere in the town, there isn't actually another location in the town that's suitable. So you couldn't relocate it, and that would add extra cost. The other thing is that the TBA has been in here all along.
Yep.
They've had a member attending all of the meetings. Sorry, the community board, apologies. It's been in it all the way along. Now, I think when you've probably seen council, Thames Kauaeranga District Council accused possibly for officers for the council itself and also for the Thames Community Board. So it's I suppose a statement that's captured all three. What other questions did you have?
Well,
To answer?
personally, I'd like to see the recommendation of a resolution or suggested resolution. I'd like to see it lie on the table and be, and so, you know, from discussion, because we talk about appreciation, part depreciation or no depreciation, but you don't have any numbers with it. And you say so you have done some modelling yet, so I presume you say that. So to fully fund the depreciation, partly fund the depreciation, not fund the depreciation of Pakaraka, but then favour it. That's what we're asked to consider today. But as a consequence of the figure that cost of rate parts are not available until the decision on modelling has occurred. So we're actually asking to make a decision on whether we charge rate parts $20.28 plus GST with no option 2 or 3.
Yeah, so bringing this to the board, if the board wanted to consider other options, this is where the feedback can come back to me to say, can you consider half or 33% or 5 yearly or whatever those options are. The information provided is quite comprehensive and took quite a bit of time to collate. So I didn't want to go down any avenues that weren't amenable to the board and spend my time on that. So I'm quite happy to go down those avenues with the direction of the board.
Okay, and I'm taking on board what Councillor Sinclair said, that they've taken on various projects and various amounts of money now because they're aware of the rate increases of Thames alone, which I think is 11.8. They haven't said anything to say otherwise. I seriously think, personally, I think that the board should take some time out and look at this and before we make a decision. I know it's a fait accompli and the Griffin order and things like that. I'm not suggesting one moment. It is known as a destination playground. I've taken a point that the other one's been there since 1919 and going forward, named Porritt Park when the Governor General came here. I understand that and that was at that level. This is a whole new level where I have my ear bent frequently by the current CEO of the TBA saying this is going to bring hundreds of people into town. So has that factor been built into it? So if you are going to bring hundreds of people into town and their children, is that a safe place to be unloading on the side of the state highway? And I say no. I think that this community would be willful in their discussions if they allowed somebody to get injured or hurt by being unloaded on a fog line on the state highway. And I'm surprised by Waikawau. Have they been involved in this discussion? Are they aware?
Yes, we've had some discussions and we are going to have further discussions as well. So they are aware of it.
Because one thing resonates and really resonates in my head is when we walked down with board member Johnson, councillor Rebel and Vision, when Philippa was there, and I raised this question about the dangers of unloading. Nancy said, I spoke to my daughter, I think her daughter's Renee. When we pulled up here today, I said to my daughter, Renee, this is dangerous. This is very dangerous unloading cars here on the side of the state highway. And I thought, really? You were telling us it's dangerous? And do you recall those words being said? I specifically asked her a question about unloading people on the side of the road. And she said, well, when I had my daughter Renee, I said, this is a very dangerous place to be unloading children. But she didn't think about parking between the power poles or having the power poles removed or whatever. And I said, wow. So it all went off there and wind down and I guess not a restaurant instead.
I'd just like to echo Adrian's points about the state highway. And it has been extremely frustrating when we've raised these points before and we've just been told, oh, well, that's out of scope. And Waka Kotahi are busy and it can't happen and we might look into it and this might happen and that might happen. If one looks over the other side of the road, there's a parking bay, which is kind of interesting. It's a parking bay and then there's yellow lines, so it's actually a parking bay you can't park in. And I know Waka Kotahi take a long time to do things, but just looking at that, I'm not a roading engineer, but it does seem that you could take that white line off and that would immediately almost give you half a vehicle bay, which would give more space over the other side. I really would like to see, whether it's our roading engineer or Derek or whoever, submit something to Waka Kotahi, or we get some sort of an idea from them about whether they're even looking at it or whether we're just wasting our time talking about it, because we're just not getting any answers from them. So
yeah, I'm only come lately on this because you've discussed this before.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a roading engineer and there may be a really specific reason why those white lines are there. And I understand it's state highway and I don't want to move power poles and things. But at the end of the day, the public will be raising these same questions that we are. Why are we unloading people on this? Everyone would always get out on the left-hand side.
Yeah, we're
But
Derek and our duties as a body to make these decisions. And I'm interested, it's come to us at this late point, the plans and the cost and things like that. My simple answer, and I'm done, I'll pay it enough. My simple answer is uplift that band room, take it down to Kauaeranga North. You support me? Thank you.
I don't want to say that because that really is seriously out of the scope of that. But a white line on a road.
Through the chair, so that has been discussed with Waka Kotahi and the edge marker lines, and they will be moved. So the one on the outside the police station will be moved inwards towards, and that satisfies the police because they hate people. When they shouldn't, and as a consequence, the other line on the western side of the highway will be moved. But there's some complexities around that, so that's why it hasn't been shown.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine it's not, I'm probably oversimplifying by saying, hey, just change that line. And there will be all sorts of models they have to go to and stuff, but that's, I'm very reassured.
Just before we go, persons on the committee, and then we chair, which is to say something, I'm just saying. Yeah.
It is in hand here, isn't it? There is a discussion being had with people and we have meetings to talk about exactly that. So we've got to meet the plans very young. I mean, today, so it's in hand.
Wonderful.
Well, I just wanted to push back on the idea that TCB hasn't had enough information about this, because if you look at the terms of reference that are appended to the thing, 3 of the 5 members of the steering group from DCDC, one of whom in the original one was a Thames councillor, and the role there representing the ratepayers of the district with long-term financial responsibility. So Sally Christie was well on top of that. and we had Peter Revell representing the ratepayers of the Thames ward. I felt they were giving us regular updates, both informally and through the members' reports, all of, well, as much of last term as was applicable. And I'd also like to note that the specialist advisors who are listed there are 14 specialist advisors for this project listed in the terms of reference, and 11 of them work for TCDC. So I feel like we've been on top of this. And there's possibly been an information gap with the new term, but as someone who's served more than one term on the TCD, I feel like I have been part of the decision making, and or at least informed of what's been happening. So that was a comment, but my question, and I'm really happy to drop Bruce unless if you can't answer, because I really apologise. I should have emailed this before, but we're being asked to make a decision on this $20.28. But you know, as we discussed earlier, we have already been paying depreciation and OPEX for an existing. This is not a new structure. We've been paying OPEX and depreciation on something that's already there. So, what is the $20.28, how big a leap is that from what we are already paying?
I haven't got any.
No, I'm sorry, I should have.
Bruce doesn't have.
Okay.
So
I guess all I would say is that an acknowledgement that actually we have already been paying depreciation, we have already been paying OPEX. So yes, this is a charge, but it is not a brand new $20.28 charge.
no, because you're looking at old equipment there as well. It doesn't differentiate out. Right, whether it's spiked up, whether it's only $4 currently, spike up to 20, so we don't know.
Yeah, dredging, and I'm happy to be wrong on this. So if anybody wants to correct me later, please feel free. But we had a conversation, I think one of our last council meetings in the last term about this depreciation issue. And that was a question that was asked back then as well, in terms of, you know, do we fund depreciation, do we not fund depreciation? And I have a memory of it being that we're currently paying about $12. But, so, you know, it's actually only $8 more, or only $6 more, only $10.
Was the original thinking around what the maintenance might be?
Yeah.
I would be surprised if you put $1.5 million worth of equipment in there, that you'd only go by $8.
It's not a dredge charge is what I'm saying.
Yeah. But anyway, and I went back and did talk about the people, I think it's Sally Christie was our representative on there, and Peter Revell chaired. I think, and that finished that to the reference finished on March 2023. That's no longer in place. But the thing that gets me is what was Thames Community Board result on the 22nd of February 2022. Never got the council until the 30th of September 2022, and all it said was approved option 2. I have no idea what option 2 was, except the donation name of the project to proceed. And on that, you know, we're going to be hanging to dry, I believe. I'm just saying that we need to look at it. I'm saying we can cancel the project's underway. The council pays $1.5 million towards the cost of equipment. The person that orders equipment is Philippa, and that's her job, but it's here. I'm just saying that we need to look carefully at this and carefully at how we're going to manage the safety of people using it. And I personally feel it's overplanted. That's my thing. And I think we should be looking more at incorporating Danby car park into the thing, which I've already got, I think, 10, I think, area parking spaces there that designated now in the new reseal, and that's great. But I think we should have signage down the road, designate them into people going to there and not there, not parking.
Through the chair, it's all part of it. But maybe my suggestion from earlier that if you wanted to have great detail over this, then defer this decision until the next.
I would like to. If I can get some support around the table, I'd like to do that.
Which will allow the program to proceed as this in terms of based timeline, in terms of Christmas time being met, etc. Because if you delay now, you won't meet those timelines.
So does anybody else want to, happy to defer the decision on that resolution until our next board meeting, 6 weeks away, which gives, Mr. Thompson.
No, my suggestion was to defer the depreciation.
Just the depreciation
until Okay, working out a new resolution, but his suggestion, deferred depreciation for a consideration for the next LTP on the new equipment. But in the meantime, the greater precinct is considered by the board. So that allows for the playground for a C, but allows for input from the board in terms of those decisions regarding depreciation, but also the parking, etc., etc. Okay.
Yeah, because if we defer the whole thing, it stalls the project, and we don't want to stall the project.
No, I move to receive the Porritt Park project update thing, and then 2, 3, and 4 we refer until the next board meeting. Resolution. I think the page screen.
Just while you're getting that on the screen. So under the assessment of options, there's the fully fund depreciation, partially fund depreciation, and don't fund it. But are we kind of now suggesting that there's a fourth, don't do it for the next 3 years? But equally well, couldn't that then make partially fund it for the next 3 years? I'm sorry to throw another option in, but that would signal an intent that, hey, we're serious about this playground. It would show to the donor that we want to, you know, that it's something we value. We would still be having a little bit of money coming in for that. So if something does go wrong and the supplier goes bung, or we think, hey, maybe we put another musical instrument in there or something or other, potentially there's a little bit of money coming in. That would be my thought. I hate the idea that we don't put any money aside and then something happens. So I would like to propose that we say half fund it for the next 3 years.
Around this table, what we're suggesting, but if we just receive the committee board receive the Porritt Park project update before dated 30th of May 2023, then at least we're acknowledging the fact that the project's there and 2, 3, and 4. Well, if you approve the landscape concept design package, Porritt Park, which is 2, you just, as a master plan, you can do that.
So through the chair, that just provides direction for Derek to proceed. So given that the equipment already been ordered, this project is already underway, that confirms the board's support for that plan.
Yeah.
And Derek's already been really clear that he doesn't have every single dollar amount for that second option. And that there's few questions. So those can be filled, but those questions can be answered.
Well, I can do it today.
Right, but he can come back.
What are the implications if we don't make a decision today?
There's not going to be any financial repercussions there.
If you agree to support, I would proceed as is. I'm only bringing this paper to the board because you requested a decision made regarding depreciation at some later date. And we've only been able to bring it to you at this point.
Yeah.
So
You brought to us one option, there's still option 2 and 3, which is partially or not funded at all. As we said, when it came to the art sculptures, we decided that we wouldn't do depreciation on the art sculptures and voted against it. My question to the rest of my fellow board elected members is, we depreciate that, and I figure out that some of the depreciation going towards maintenance, obviously drawback or something like that. But we depreciate. Do we want that same playground in 25 years' time? So if that's what your depreciation for, and it says in there, so we can upgrade it or regrade it or whatever. Is that what the people intend for 25 years' time, that playground? Or will we be out of Matatoki? I don't know. That's up to you. I'll make one person.
if you depreciate the playground equipment, it gives you options in the future, or it gives the elected communities options.
It's not doing like for like though, isn't it? That's why you depreciate it.
Well, so if you've got a square and you depreciate the square, it doesn't necessarily mean that it had to replace the square in the future. That means that you've got some money set aside for whatever is required in the future.
Right, based on what we've got now, of course, that's the depreciation basically.
based, so through the chair, it's based on the value
Yeah.
of the asset life. So like Derek says, it's a sum of money that you're putting aside to replace those items or replace the playground with a new playground. Doesn't have to be exactly the same playground.
Coming back to the car analogy, so if you had set aside money for a Ford, Telstar or whatever, in the future, you wouldn't have a Ford Telstar to replace. There'd be some other model. So you're setting aside money to replace something into the future.
It's an allocation.
I wouldn't have wanted to Ford Telstar to
Probably an EV.
Thanks. So there we are. I'll pop up on the screen. Yes, and anybody interested in those?
Sorry, bro.
1 and 2 remain the same.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Leave the 3. Surely it's through the chair. Surely it's defers the decision, isn't it? Because we haven't got the information required to grab any of those.
That'd be my preference. Or same to leave it lying on the table, but I think we should put an indicative date that we come back. You've got the next year, kind of like we have, is it the next board meeting or the next board meeting after that? I mean, what time?
So through the chair, I think Derek's suggestion is quite a good one about defer it to the LTP. And so, and just correcting Martin said about 3 years, we're not talking about 3 years, we're talking about the LTP that we're busy working on now. So what would happen is the discussion around depreciation would be part of the budget discussions that would happen as part of that LTP, which will happen probably later this calendar year or early next calendar year, while we're kind of starting working through all those budgets put in place. I think as Derek mentioned, have a bit more certainty over a number of things. Things will have settled down. We'll have a bit more information that we'll be able to share with elected members. So and again, looking at the report, Derek's included in their depreciation, which was $13 something for all of that equipment, $6 something for the operational cost. So we'll still need the operational cost once the playground is actually built. But we can defer the depreciation side of things until as part of those LTP budget discussions.
I'd just like to see a paper along those lines, something come back to us. I quite actually, it's gone. I quite like to defer it.
I'd like to move that we move option 3.
I'll second that.
Motion, resolution, whatever the resolution.
So you got 1 and 2 on the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So correct me, Derek, that gives you enough to go on it, install, and ensures that the project doesn't stall, that the timelines are all met, but all we're doing is just deferring the depreciation, which is neither here nor there in terms of getting the project done.
Correct.
You can be comfortable with that one, Derek, with that discussion.
Yeah. That was actually, that's the thing. So you may potentially that's that was figure out. But that's fine. And I suppose I just need a little bit more meat in terms of which way you're leading to be able to do those depreciation models.
I don't look a very concerned. I would have been depreciation. I will go in the table.
I just suggest maybe we could have a discussion and then get back to 3 rows. Can we do that? Sure. Because it's more of a rather than try and call it now.
Yeah, right. You're not going to get too much traction at the moment. We better just Mr. Allen up there, his hands up. Is it lunchtime? No.
You just through the chair, I just wanted to check with Bruce whether resolution 3 should be recommends to council that defers decision on depreciation.
Well, that's another option.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it should say that because
You're talking about it now, aren't you?
Council will be making the
decision before we do.
Decision.
Board Member Ruckler.
Through the chair, the Porritt Park.
Yeah, what?
They will increase the rate, is it right? Up to $22 or something?
We don't know what the existing component is.
Okay,
We're only surmising what it is, but that's what the total cost will be plus GST.
if is happen, multiply by how many ratepayer we have in Thames?
7,713.
Rateable assessments, not ratepayers,
Seven?
rateable assessments.
Sorry, I'm just making that up.
7,000 something?
I'm not sure what the number is, sorry, that's top of my head.
5,700, okay, thank you.
Okay. But the answer,
That's all I need to know.
I thought you were going to tell us how much money they're going to get each year. Okay, so just go back to you, Mr. Thompson. Are you happy? Ish. There's nothing on there that's going to stall you, is there?
No, I don't think so. And like I say, feedback in terms of where you're angling in terms of depreciation.
We'll come back, we'll put this on the agenda for our next briefing network meeting, which we actually can't make a decision at, but we may just get an indication for you.
Yep.
If you want to accept that without a motion. But the thing is here, you know, today, I just don't think the board is quite in step with each other about and the last three models are going to be presented as one. It's no disrespect to you, or he's not that, it's just the way it's worked. Personally, I have other concerns, but then I may relay those to you some other way about safety, about planning.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Let me assure you as well that Philippa is CPD trained, so crime prevention for environmental.
That's always been a prick.
Yeah, she's been involved in designs of playgrounds up and down the country for some 40 odd years.
Oh, yes. We had a discussion on the way back to gastronomic restaurant. Okay, all right. Do we have a move by Councillor Ryan?
A comment, just to summarise that, is that you're going to enable the councillors to make a decision at the end. So without this coming back to a meeting, what you're saying here with this resolution is that you're happy for your Thames councillors to speak on behalf of the board.
At
Next council meeting.
the LTP.
That's
Well,
correct.
I mean, one suspect, as Bruce pointed out, the LTP discussion will take place in a number of months and things. So
Yeah.
we will be getting a steer about, we can pass on those discussions about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's all it is, it recommends to council, and they are outspoken. And I may even go along and sit in council meeting myself.
More than welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. Right. Is there any further discussion on that? Because somebody's telling me it's getting close to a 2-hour period we've got. Any further discussion? There being none, I propose to put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please carry. Thank you, Council.
Notice being cool.
Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Derek.
You'll be watching.
No, he'll be fuming at home.
We miss you, Peter. Come back soon.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Derek and Bruce. To get ready to put us in one package just like this.
Shut them over.
I'll take advice from the board. We'll do the action schedule now, which is, I think it's got nothing in it for anyone.
There's 4 items in it.
4 items, yeah. What's it say at the top? Action schedule, right? Oh, sorry, that's item 4.1. Thank you. Item 4.1. Okay, oh, yeah, right. So I might have 5 on your. Yeah.
It's 4 in the
Next
agenda.
schedule for 4.1.
Yeah.
So, meetings, request for briefing on Porritt playground equipment, done. In progress. Meeting request board, create the vibe. Well, oh, we could have a quick report on that. Oh, it's gone, it's gone. I think over 1,000 questionnaires have been sent back in to date, but 59 verbals. That's taken out. All right. Works program request more information to take Road. We did that today.
Yep.
Request for list of potential sites attending. Oh, it's closed. And that will daily report back to us on September the 23rd, 2023. Correct? Rosalie Moore, your report back for your point thing, regional point thing.
It's probably that's correct in the presentation.
Yeah. The 20.
That's the September briefing.
Yeah.
27.
Okay, somebody care to move the received action schedule report date June 2023, board member Rockwa, board member McKenzie. Any further discussion? There being none, proposed put the motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So obviously 5.2, the chairperson's report. I'll take that to being read.
Yep.
My only comment is when you get down to community engagement, I'm sure there's people like Councillor Sinclair that's done a lot of work in the background that I don't know about. So if I'm trying to write a little report, it's very difficult. So I just ask you people, if you are sending out emails, it's not we want to track you or anything like that or keeping tabs on you. It's just so I can put it on there and say, and it looks better. And all the other board chairs read the various chair reports, and from that they get some action plans for themselves. So I just ask board members, please, if you're communicating, if you do so, and to the chair and that if you want to, area manager as well. Just one quick comment is that the 15th of June, the National Community Board Hui. I mean, there was 541 invitations went out, total of 26 people were on the Zoom meeting at the time. 7 o'clock at night, I found that appalling. And of those 26 on the Zoom meeting, I think 7 or 8 thing called CAPEX, which is Community Board Executive Committee, called CAPEX. And interestingly, the problems that community boards are experiencing are probably universal across the board. And it seems to be boards wanting to move more into what the council's doing. For example, boards are asking to attend zone meetings, like zone 2 meetings or whatever council goes to. They're asking to be included in the council information bailouts and things like that, which we get now. So we're really well off compared to some community boards in New Zealand. So I am going to reply to them. I just sent a questionnaire out this morning. I am going to reply to them and say how disappointed I was in the approach they took. They just spoke amongst themselves. They didn't ask any other board members who are on there if we wanted to introduce ourselves or say how long we've been involved. So I thought, well, the first thing is get your own house in order, and then we can talk about what you want to do with territorial local authorities. But it's just interesting that it's still going on, and that was going back to the 1980s. So things like that. And the other thing is of concern to me in this count on a field report, number of businesses that are about to close, or the number of businesses that are for sale or have been sold recently. And it's quite disconcerting, and it shows an element of businesses are suffering. Nothing what the sports can do about it. Bring it to your attention. It's really going to be quite tough on this town going forward. And if those questions were correct in Parliament that they have asked it, and they don't think that 25A is going to be open until 12 or 14 months from now, that puts it on about the period next year, which is way past early 2024. And I've been informed that there are properties on the eastern seaboard, not on this side, where they've already thrown the sheets and the towels and gone all over the furniture and they've vacated the place and they've gone. So that also acts on a downside for the businesses that are there, the recent ratepayers in there, shopping there, they've gone off somewhere else, whether they've got the camper van and gone off somewhere else or whatever. But I do know that there's a lot of angst about appointments at the hospital and medical appointments and all of every day that she has noticed a real downturn on foot traffic through her shop from the other side. 425A, that's all. So I get moves that chair's report or any comments, anybody got any pushback on the chair? Everybody pray, pushback? No, please, if you want things added on, if you get them to me, we're going to include them in the report somehow. So that's purely through the leniency of Mr. Litchfield. So we do like to, we are a progressive board and we do like to get as much information. So I move to receive my report. Somebody else get a second by Board Member Johnson. All in favour, please say aye. I want to thank you very much today for your patience and understanding. And also, please don't forget this afternoon, 3 o'clock, we've got volunteers thing there. I know a couple of us got to be there because make a speech of those here. So we just need that. We need Councillor Rodley down here for IT purposes.
Standard rates.
You're going to be there.
I've got to pick up my other child at 3, so we'll see. Hopefully, I'll.
We're going to introduce you as the youngest volunteer here.
Oh, yeah, I'll, as long as he can come.
Make a flying
Yeah,
visit.
3.
Yeah.
I've got to go pick him up, so.
All right, let's let the meeting close at 12:08 meeting.
Yeah.
Sorry, 80 minutes after the time. Please go enjoy your lunch and there's a very small